Hello folks, today I wanted to look at the charts of Ted Bundy, and I think the first victim that he was actually arrested for unaliving. I think it was because after he was arrested for another crime, I think his car was impounded and inspected, and then the hair of a victim that he unalived was found in that car. And so I believe she's like the first known victim of him as far as someone he unalived. So I'm going to try to go through this. Her name was Caryn, Caryn Eileen Campbell. She was born September the 20th, 1951 in Garden City, Michigan. Okay, and Ted Bundy was born November 24th, 1946, Burlington, Vermont. So he was a Sagittarius, she was a Virgo. And I just wanted to take a look at their synastry, put their charts together, and just kind of make some observations. Okay, so his chart's going to be in blue, and her chart's going to be in red. You see the sun in Virgo right there. She's a late Virgo, almost a Libra. And then Ted Bundy has the sun in Sagittarius at an early degree, I think like 2 degrees, something like that, maybe 3. It's hard to tell because these charts, if I want to see the degrees, I have to look here. Okay, he's a Sagittarius at 2 degrees Sagittarius, and she is a Virgo at 26 degrees Virgo. So, about her moon, I don't know her birth time, and so her moon could actually be in Gemini. Right here it's showing 29 degrees Taurus, and that would be if she was born around 12 noon. Because I think that whenever you do a chart with an unknown birth time, I think that 12 noon is used by the system. I'm not exactly sure, but she could have had a Gemini moon. Okay, and so let's see what his moon was in. Let's see, he's in blue, and his moon was in Sagittarius also. So he had a Sagittarius stellium, Sun, Mars, Moon, and Black Moon Lilith, all in Sagittarius. Also, I tried to find his name Theodore, but that was not a name in the asteroid database, surprisingly. I think this is Theodora or something like that. But interesting that it shows up in Sagittarius, and that was his name. So anyway, his birth time is known, hers is not. And so his houses are going to be accurate. I have this in whole signs, though, because we don't know her birth time. So I just went ahead and put it in whole signs. And so I find it interesting that her Chiron, or Chiron, looks like it's in Sagittarius. And, Chiron is a wound that never heals. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, his MO was to decapitate his victims, usually. I don't know if he always did this, but it was kind of an MO of his. And it's conjunct really to his Black Moon Lilith. Okay? And I find that interesting. And then, of course, Neptune is more generational, and so they're going to be kind of conjunct because they weren't born too far apart, just a few years apart. Now, her Neptune, interestingly, is at 18 degrees Libra. That's known as the Devil's degree. That is also conjunct a Sabian symbol, which means two men being placed under arrest. You could just interpret that as someone being placed under arrest, not necessarily two men. Also, I think it's an asteroid or fixed star, I can't remember, Rhadamanthus, which is equal to the judge, or a righteous judge, because in Greek mythology, Rhadamanthus was known to be a righteous judge, a well-liked judge, someone who was well appointed as being judge. The people were pleased with him in Greek mythology. Interestingly enough, in her chart, Theraeus, which is a monster, basically, in Greek mythology, shows up really close to his ascendant or rising sign in Leo. Okay, so he was a Sagittarius with Leo rising. Wow, that's a lot. We see her Pluto and Mars. Mars rules unaliving, so does Pluto, really close to his ascendant. We see Venus there. And, he was known to essay his victims, as most of you already know. Then we go over to his chart. He has Theraeus in Cancer. And we look at her chart, and she has Theodorus or Theodora or whatever it is, asteroid. And it falls in his 12th house. We don't know what house it's in for her because we don't know her birth time. Falls into his 12th house of sorrows, troubles, secrets, loss, confinement, that sort of thing. And I find that interesting between these two charts. Now, her moon is in red here, and like I said, Taurus, if she was born earlier in the day, this is the symbol for Taurus. She would have a Taurus moon. If she was born later in the day, she would have a Gemini moon. I'm going to bet she was born later in the day because of this North Node that he has in the 11th house. Her moon is probably conjunct his North Node, possibly his Uranus, because Uranus is perversions, okay? And let's see here. His MC, Medium Coeli, is in Taurus as well. So he is famous for, Taurus rules the neck. And he would decapitate people. And so I think that the MC being there in his chart is very appropriate in Taurus. Then this blew my mind. Her Typhon, which is in red. Oh my goodness, this is just crazy. Typhon is probably the most dreaded and feared monster in Greek mythology. It's conjunct her Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. He was a Sagittarius. It's in Aries. Aries rules the human head, and it rules unaliving. And then there's her Typhon right there, conjunct his Typhon. That is very compelling. That is very, very interesting to me. Very interesting. And then in her chart, we have her North Node in Pisces, which means her South Node is going to be around probably 10 degrees of Virgo. I don't see that he has anything here. But then we look at his North Node. I want to look at his North Node and see what happens. His North Node is in Gemini, which means his South Node is going to be in Sagittarius at around, let's see, what's the degree? The South Node looks to be around 10 degrees Gemini. Let's see what's going on in 10 degrees Sagittarius. his Mars. Wow. So the South Node is what you have to get rid of. It's the tail of the dragon, so to speak. And it's opposing his Mars. It's not opposing anything that she has because she's in red. But being that his MO was to decapitate people, and the South Node, which is not pictured, is conjunct Mars, which is the human head, that's very telling. That's something that he would have to get rid of after he unalived someone and decapitated someone. He had to somehow get rid of that evidence or make sure that it wasn't seen by anyone. That's just, whew. Oh, that's out there even for me. And then his vertex is over here in Capricorn. And I haven't looked up the date where he was executed. But if I'm not mistaken, he was executed during the season of Capricorn. And there's his vertex, which deals with fate. So I just find these kinds of placements between their charts very, very interesting. Because, like I said, I think that she was the first documented person that he unalived, that he was arrested for. Now, he escaped a couple of times, and I think during those escapes, he unalived some more people. He was a prolific serial unaliver. Oh, wow. I can't even wrap my mind around the things that he's done. And they have not actually ever come to a conclusion about his victim count. I mean, that's how prolific he was as a serial unaliver. But he eventually got caught. He eventually paid the price. And you know, that's kind of the lesson I want people to take away regarding the Summer Wells case. Just because someone hasn't been caught for, I'm not going to say she was unalived because we don't know. But just because someone hasn't been caught for causing her disappearance does not mean that they never will be. Some of his victims, if I'm not mistaken, waited 10 years, 8 to 10 years or whatever, maybe even more, for justice after they were unalived. It took a long time, if I'm not mistaken, to really nail this guy for what he went around doing. And so, I just don't want people to give up hope. She could be out there alive somewhere. I pray to God she is. You know, the astrology looks kind of grim in that case, but you know, I just want to say, just because somebody hasn't been caught and punished yet doesn't mean they won't be. Okay? There's an old saying, the wheels of justice grind slow, but they grind fine. And there was no better example of this than the Ted Bundy case. I mean, it took a long time to nail this guy. You could get online and look up his timeline of where he unalived people, and then look at how long it actually took to convict him, you know, and it was a long time. And I believe that one of his victims, one of his alleged victims, happened when he was in his teens. See, these people start young. They start a lot younger than you would think. Everybody's like, oh, the profile of a serial unaliver is a middle-aged white guy between, say, 35 and 45 or whatever. But FBI statistics, if you look that up, you're going to find that they started young, and they started usually with something like animals, and they started fires and things like that before they progressed into being prolific serial unalivers. And so, yeah, we just got to keep that stuff in mind when we begin to think, oh, well, nobody's ever going to be caught and punished for such and such crime or such and such disappearance. So keep hope alive, There's a prayer vigil coming up for Summer Wells. I hope that, you'll set some time aside to pray for her, even though it might not be during the time and date that is set aside for her. But any time is good to pray for any missing person. I think we all know that. And so, and y'all know me, I love Jesus, but I cuss a little. That's just, I'm just, that's just me. But, so I'm not perfect, but I believe prayer changes things. And I believe that if we keep praying for these cases collectively and individually, I think it can change things. I truly do. If it, Lord willing, something will break in these unsolved cases like Sebastian Rogers and Summer Wells and, others. And so, just keep hope alive for these folks. And I appreciate you watching this video. I know it was short and I know it was kind of weird and it didn't really have much to it, but I just thought these were interesting observations to make. And I also see here in his chart, which I guess is in blue, we have Mars, and then we have the Ascendant, and the part of Fortune and Pluto, all pointing towards Typhon, which is the monster, and then her Jupiter, which is Sagittarius, and he's a Sagittarius, and in Aries, like I said, which represents unaliving and the human head. And I just find that fascinating. And then, if her moon was in Taurus, okay, and it could have been if she was born around 12 noon or earlier, there's an opposition to his sun. So there's a sun-moon opposition. And there's something interesting about this. I'm sorry the camera is blurring. Sometimes the victims of unalivers and unalivers, they will have the same sorts of karmic ties and aspects as married couples will have. I know that's kind of weird, and it's hard to think of like that. But if she was born around this time, her sun is opposed his moon, her moon is opposed his sun. Now, this is also true with my husband and I. We have a sun-moon opposition, and that is a very common marriage aspect. And I just think that it's kind of wild that victims and unalivers also share these aspects that are common in the charts of married people. And so that's another interesting observation that I wanted to make. But anyway, I'll go ahead and sign off. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm by no means the best astrologer that there is. I'm a student like everybody else. Even after 44 years of study, I'm still studying and I'm still a student. So anyway, I'm going to sign off now. I hope you have a great day. Be blessed. Bye-bye.